Hey everyone, this is Angela, Family Service Director at Forest Lawn Funeral Home and Cemetery in Omaha, Nebraska. Today we're going to talk about some of the trends that we're seeing in the cemetery and funeral industry. So we're seeing a lot of trends with cremation, which is not surprising because cremation has been on the rise for many years now. Currently, in the United States, the average cremation rate is about 57%. Because cremation has been on the rise for many years now, cemeteries have had to look at options that allow people to personalize. People want unique options that allow them to honor their loved one. At Forest Lawn, one of the most popular options, actually the most popular option that we have, are glass front niches. Glass front niches allow a person to not only display their loved one's urn, but also display those pictures, mementos, keepsakes, all the things that were important to their loved one. And it's the only form of burial where you can walk up to a burial site and see the story of a person's life through pictures, images, keepsakes. It is the ultimate form of personalization, and that's what people want today. So people are also taking a small portion of their cremated remains and doing interesting things with them. So we've seen a lot of cremation products come to the market over the last several years. So I've seen everything from diamonds to jewelry that holds a small portion of the cremated remains to thumbprints made into jewelry. One of the most interesting things I've seen are that people are able to add a portion of the cremated remains into a tattoo. People are doing all sorts of interesting things with a portion of the cremated remains, but they're still leaving a place for those people that are left behind to go gather, grieve, say a prayer, and reflect. So one of the other trends that we're seeing with cremation is the return to in-person services that are made into large events. So we love events and celebrations, and people are really returning to that. There for a while, we had to live stream a lot of our services just with COVID, and people couldn't travel to services. We had to have social distancing in place, and I think that really made people think about what they were missing or possibly what they could miss. And so we've seen a return to those big events and celebrations, and a lot of people are doing celebrations of life. So along with those events and celebrations, we're seeing people that are going to be cremated are actually having a full traditional funeral service with a casket and viewing, and then having the cremation take place following. Because people do understand how important the viewing is for the closure and healing for those loved ones that are left behind. Another trend that we've noticed is that there is a younger generation of people that are really starting to pre-plan. And I think there's many reasons for that. One is, we're reminded every day in the news that we're all going to die at some point. I mean, people die every day of unexpected events, whether it's an accident, whether it's an unknown illness or an injury, a medical episode, or even a tragic event. I think today's generation understands more than anyone that tomorrow is not promised. Planning ahead is more important than ever, and discussing death has actually become more commonplace than it ever has been before. You see death being talked about or discussed in movies, TV shows, on streaming services. I just think people are more comfortable with the subject today. And I think it's a younger generation is hearing more and more about death. People talk about it in blogs, people talk about it on YouTube. People are more comfortable talking about it just because it is more commonplace. We're seeing a lot more, green burials, human composting, things that may not be yet popular in the Midwest, but they are in other parts of the country. And more than likely, most of our younger generation have already had to attend, if not plan, the funeral of a loved one. Our younger generation wants to be in control of their own arrangements and make sure that their arrangements are followed according to their wishes. They don't want families having to spend more money than they need to based on emotional overspending. What we do find is that if arrangements are made at the time a death occurs, families are more than likely going to spend a little bit more, and that's just out of whether that's guilt or they just really feel like they want to do something nice for their loved one last time. And what we find is that most survivors don't actually spend the least amount of money, so they definitely spend a little bit more, and I think our younger generation really wants to be in control of that, and they want to be prepared. Another trend that we've seen is just a greater length of time for a service to take place. A service used to take place within 2 or 3 days. However, now services could be scheduled a week or more out. And that's just because we are a mobile society. People are on the move more, they travel more, we're spread out more from our origins, and it takes a lot longer for people to be able to get together for the services. We do offer live streaming. So because people are on the move more and they're traveling more, it just becomes harder and harder to schedule a funeral in a timely manner. Because our younger generation does want to pre-plan more and more now, a lot of our arrangements can be transferred through the ICCFA, which is the International Cemetery, Cremation, and Funeral Association. So if a person moves, their arrangements essentially can move with them. And therefore it's become easier for people to pre-plan, even if they're on the move and they don't know where they will end up later on in life. We've noticed some changes in religious trends as well. I think fewer and fewer people consider themselves religious today, so we're seeing less and less traditional church services, and we're seeing more people have celebrations of life, having services in our chapel at the funeral home, or even services at the grave site. They're not having the traditional church or chapel service that we are all accustomed to over the years. Many of those funerals are designed to mirror events rather than funerals. So a lot of people are having celebrations of life, they're having picture boards, videos played. It's really to be a celebration rather than a funeral. Some of the more historically traditional churches and religions have actually started to loosen their restrictions on cremation as well. So a lot of those religions have accepted cremation, although there may be certain regulations involved, such as, keeping the cremated remains all intact and having them in a permanent place of rest. I don't know about you guys, but I find all of these trends fascinating. It really helps us serve our clientele through the most difficult times of their lives, and that's what's really important to me. If you want to see more content like this, please make sure to hit the like button and subscribe below.